The city never slept. Cars rolled down the cracked streets, neon lights flickered, and footsteps echoed across cold sidewalks. Yet in the middle of all that noise, Tom felt invisible. He had been homeless for years, drifting from alley to alley, sleeping under bridges, and surviving on scraps from trash bins or the rare kindness of strangers. Tom had once worked odd jobs, loading boxes in warehouses, cleaning halls, or fixing broken pipes. But the city was harsh. When work dried up, when rent rose too high, when his health began to wear down, life had slowly pushed him to the edges. He had no family nearby and no one to call. The people who passed him on the streets often looked the other way. To them, he was just another shadow against the wall. That night was colder than usual. The air carried a bite that cut through his thin coat. Tom rubbed his hands together, breathing warmth into them, and searched for a place to sleep. He walked along the riverbank where the bridge loomed above. Underneath it, the wind was calmer, and it was one of the few places where he could escape the stares of passers-by. As he approached the dark area under the bridge, he heard something strange. At first, he thought it was just the rumble of trucks passing overhead. But then the sound grew sharper, like a metallic crack followed by a low hum. It was unlike any machine he had ever heard. He froze, listening carefully. The sound came again. This time it was followed by a faint groan. Tom's heart beat faster. He had lived on the streets long enough to know that trouble often waited in shadows. He hesitated, torn between turning away and moving closer. Curiosity pushed him forward. Carefully, he stepped through the broken concrete and weeds under the bridge. His eyes adjusted to the dim light, and that was when he saw it. A figure lay crumpled on the ground near the river's edge. At first, Tom thought it was just another person like him, hurt or drunk. But as he drew closer, he realized this was no ordinary man. The figure's skin glowed faintly, shimmering silver under the moonlight. Strange patterns rippled across his body, as if light itself flowed beneath the surface. His clothes were torn, not like any fabric Tom had seen before. They shimmered with a strange, almost liquid sheen. Tom's first instinct was fear. He took a step back, his breath caught in his throat. Was this some kind of experiment gone wrong? Was it a trick of his tired eyes? Then the figure stirred. A hand reached weakly toward Tom. The movement was slow, trembling, as if even lifting his arm required immense strength. A sound escaped the stranger's lips, a series of words Tom could not understand. The language was unlike anything he had ever heard, sharp yet melodic, filled with tones that rose and fell like music. Tom's fear remained, but his compassion was stronger. He had seen people in pain before, and he had always tried to help, even when he had nothing. This being, whatever he was, looked hurt, broken, and close to death. Without thinking further, Tom hurried to his side. He knelt on the cold ground, pressing his ear close. The being's breaths were shallow, strained. His chest rose and fell with effort. Tom reached out, hesitating only for a second before placing a hand gently on his arm. The skin felt warm, almost too warm, and beneath it there was a faint vibration, like a quiet hum of energy. "It's all right," Tom whispered, though he knew the stranger would not understand his words. "You're safe now. I'll help you." The alien's eyes opened halfway. They were unlike human eyes, glowing faintly with a pale blue light. But within them, Tom saw something he recognized: fear, exhaustion, and a desperate plea for help. Tom had little to offer. His pockets carried nothing more than a few crumbs of bread he had saved from earlier. His blanket was worn and thin, but it was the only warmth he owned. Without hesitation, he wrapped it around the stranger. The alien shivered, his body trembling, but his eyes softened, as if he understood the gift. His lips moved again, forming words that still made no sense to Tom. Yet the tone carried gratitude. Tom gently lifted the stranger's head, giving him a sip of water from a dented bottle he carried. Most of it spilled, but enough reached the alien's lips. He swallowed weakly, his glow dimming and then stabilizing. As Tom sat there, he realized how strange the moment was. He, a man forgotten by the city, was now cradling a being from beyond the stars. The world above the bridge carried on without noticing. Cars roared, people shouted, lights flashed, but none of them saw what was happening below. The alien tried to rise, but his strength failed him. Tom caught him, easing him back to the ground. "Don't move," he said softly. "You're too weak." The stranger seemed to understand, or at least trusted him enough to remain still. Minutes passed like hours. The cold wind bit at Tom's face, but he ignored it. He stayed by the stranger's side, checking his breathing, whispering words of comfort that only he could understand. At one point, the alien reached toward his side, touching a small device attached to his torn clothing. It flickered with faint light before going dark again. Tom had no idea what it was, but he knew it mattered to the stranger. Carefully, he placed the device back against his chest. The alien's glowing eyes followed Tom's every movement. There was no anger in them, only trust. Tom looked around, realizing that keeping the stranger under the bridge was dangerous. If anyone else saw him, questions would come, and with questions came trouble. He had to move him somewhere safer. Though Tom was thin and weary, he summoned all his strength. He slid his arms under the stranger, grunting as he lifted. The alien was lighter than expected, as if his body carried less weight than his size suggested. Step by step, Tom carried him toward an old warehouse he had used before for shelter. The walk was long and hard. The alien shifted weakly in his arms, murmuring words Tom could not grasp. Several times Tom thought he would collapse from exhaustion, but he pushed on, determined not to leave the being behind. Finally, he reached the warehouse, its rusted doors hanging loosely. Inside, the air was musty, filled with dust and broken wood, but it was dry and hidden from curious eyes. Tom gently laid the alien on a pile of rags he had once used as bedding. The alien's glow flickered, dimming, then steadying again. His chest rose with more ease than before. Tom sat beside him, breathing heavily, his muscles aching from the effort. Still, he felt no regret. For the first time in years, he felt his actions truly mattered. The stranger looked at him again, eyes glowing faintly, and raised a trembling hand. He touched Tom's chest just above his heart. The gesture was slow, deliberate, filled with meaning that needed no words. Tom placed his hand gently over the alien's, nodding. "You'll be all right," he said softly. "I'll take care of you." The alien closed his eyes, resting at last as the faint hum of his body filled the silent warehouse. Tom leaned back against the wall, exhausted but alert. He knew the night was only the beginning. Something extraordinary had entered his life, something far beyond the city streets and the hunger of his days. He did not understand it yet, but he felt it in his bones. The world had changed, and so had he. The warehouse stood quiet through the night. Dust floated in the air, the moonlight shining through cracks in the roof, and the city's noises faded to a distant hum. Tom sat awake beside the strange being he had rescued. He felt a mix of fear, wonder, and responsibility. The alien's breathing was steadier now, though his body still glowed faintly as if energy pulsed inside him. Tom had placed his own thin blanket over him and used scraps of cloth to make a pillow. He checked the stranger again and again, unsure if he would survive the night. When morning came, Tom stepped outside, stretching his stiff limbs. He needed food and water, both for himself and for the guest inside. He had no money, but he had learned where the baker sometimes left old bread near the trash and where restaurants tossed unwanted scraps. It was never much, but today he would share whatever he found. Hours later, Tom returned with a small bag. Inside was a half loaf of stale bread and some bruised fruit. It was not enough for a feast, but it was something. When he entered the warehouse, he saw the alien stirring. His eyes opened slowly, glowing blue in the dim light. He lifted his head a little, confusion flashing across his face before recognition returned. He saw Tom and relaxed. "You are awake," Tom said softly, though he knew the words would not be understood. The alien tried to speak. Strange sounds rolled from his lips, flowing like music. Tom listened carefully, shaking his head. "I don't know what you're saying," he admitted. The alien frowned in concentration, then touched his chest. "Aaron." The word was clear, unlike the rest. Tom blinked. "Aaron? That's your name?" The alien nodded weakly. "Aaron." Tom pointed to himself. "Tom." Aaron repeated the word slowly, his voice carrying a curious tone. "Tom." The exchange made Tom smile. It was simple, but it was a beginning. They could not share full sentences yet, but names were powerful. They built the first bridge of trust. Tom offered the bread, breaking it into pieces. Aaron hesitated before taking one, sniffing it cautiously. His glowing eyes flickered, then he bit carefully. Though the food was rough and dry, he chewed and swallowed. Tom passed him some water from his bottle, and Aaron drank with difficulty, spilling some down his silver-like skin. "You'll need to get stronger," Tom said. He had no idea how much the alien understood, but speaking felt natural. We'll figure something out. Days passed in this quiet rhythm. Tom scavenged food during the day and returned to care for Aaron. Slowly, the alien's strength returned. His glow brightened, no longer flickering weakly but steady like a lantern's light. He sat upright more often, watching Tom with curiosity. Sometimes he touched objects around the warehouse as though testing their texture. Rusted pipes, broken wood, and scraps of metal fascinated him. Other times he spoke words Tom could not understand, pointing at things as though trying to teach. One evening, Tom returned to find Aaron sitting cross-legged on the floor, holding a small device from his torn clothing. The object glowed with faint light, symbols shifting across its surface. Aaron tapped it, then looked at Tom with expectation. The device projected shapes into the air, lines, circles, glowing dots. Tom gasped as he realized it was showing stars, entire constellations shifting before his eyes. He stared wide-eyed, unable to believe what he was seeing. Space, Aaron said slowly, pointing upward. Stars, Tom swallowed, nodding. Stars, Aaron smiled faintly. He pointed to one glowing dot, then to himself. Aaron, Tom's eyes widened. You're from there? That's where you came from? Aaron nodded. He then pointed to Tom, then down to the ground. Earth, Tom. It was clumsy communication, but it worked. Each night after that, Aaron used the device to teach. He spoke slowly, repeating words while pointing at objects. Tom learned some strange words, and Aaron learned more English, though broken and simple. You help Aaron, the alien said one night, his accent heavy but his meaning clear. Tom kind, Tom shook his head. Anyone would have helped. Aaron frowned, his glowing eyes serious. No, not anyone. Many look away. You not look away. The words struck Tom. He knew they were true. People often ignored suffering, but he had helped because it was the only thing he could do. To hear gratitude spoken back made him feel something he had not felt in years. Worth. The bond between them grew stronger. Aaron began to smile more often, his once pained face showing warmth. He showed Tom how to press the device to make lights glow brighter, how to listen to faint sounds it produced, and even how to tap a rhythm that echoed like music. But the peace was fragile. One afternoon, while Tom searched for food, he noticed a group of men watching the warehouse from across the street. They whispered among themselves, pointing occasionally. Tom felt unease. He had lived long enough on the streets to know when trouble was brewing. He hurried back inside, closing the rusted doors. Aaron looked at him curiously, sensing the tension. People are watching, Tom explained, gesturing nervously. We need to be careful. Aaron tilted his head. Danger? Tom nodded. Yes, danger. The alien's glow dimmed slightly as if he understood. He touched the device at his side, but its lights flickered weakly. Whatever power it held, it was not ready to protect them yet. That night, Tom lay awake, listening for sounds outside. Every creak of the warehouse made his heart jump. He knew they could not stay there forever. The more people noticed, the greater the risk. The next day, Aaron surprised him. Using broken English, he spoke with effort. Tom safe Aaron, Aaron safe Tom. Tom blinked, touched by the words. He smiled faintly. We'll keep each other safe. Over the following days, Tom taught Aaron how to eat different foods, how to drink slowly, how to rest without fear. In return, Aaron taught Tom simple words in his own language, though Tom struggled to pronounce them. Still, every lesson drew them closer. One evening, when the city lights flickered outside and the hum of traffic echoed, Tom asked quietly, Why were you here? Why did you fall? Aaron's face grew serious. He pointed to the sky, then shaped his hands as if showing an explosion. Attack, he said. Ship broken. Aaron fall. Tom's stomach tightened. So Aaron had been attacked. By what or by whom, Tom could not imagine. The thought made him shiver. If something powerful enough to attack ships in space existed, what would happen if it came near Earth? Aaron noticed his fear. He placed a hand gently on Tom's arm. Safe now. Tom strong. Tom laughed softly. I don't feel strong. Aaron shook his head. Stronger than many. The words stayed with Tom. He was a man who had been forgotten by society, yet here was someone from another world telling him he was strong. It made him believe, if only for a moment, that maybe he was more than the city had ever allowed him to be. But the shadows outside the warehouse grew thicker. Strange men lingered longer, whispering and glancing toward the broken windows. They had seen lights at night, faint glows that could not be explained by anything ordinary. Curiosity turned to greed, and greed always brought danger. Tom knew something was coming. He just did not know how soon. For now, he focused on Aaron. Each day the alien's strength returned, his movements steadier, his voice clearer. He no longer looked like a dying stranger. He looked like someone who carried knowledge and power beyond Tom's imagination. And yet, despite all that power, he treated Tom not as a servant or a tool, but as a friend. Inside that dusty warehouse, a bond grew between a homeless man and a visitor from the stars, a bond that neither the city's greed nor the dangers above the sky could easily break. The days passed slowly in the warehouse. Tom woke each morning to the soft glow of Aaron's skin, a gentle reminder that his strange companion was no longer in immediate danger. The alien moved more confidently now, his body steady and his eyes bright with intelligence. Tom watched him closely, realizing that Aaron was not just a wounded traveler. There was more to him, something far greater than Tom could yet understand. One evening, Tom returned from scavenging a small bag of food. He found Aaron sitting upright on the wooden floor, tapping the glowing device that had fascinated him for days. The patterns of light were more complex now, shifting quickly across the air as if they were alive. "Hello," Tom said softly, stepping closer. "Did you learn something today?" Aaron's glowing eyes met his. He made a sound that was part voice, part vibration, and pointed at Tom. "Learn," he said slowly. "Learn human," Tom smiled. "I'm teaching you English, and you're teaching me something I don't understand." Aaron tilted his head. He tapped the device again. Stars, planets, and strange symbols filled the air above them, spinning and moving. Tom stepped back in awe. "You're showing me space?" he whispered. "All of it?" Aaron nodded, then touched his chest. Aaron home, Aaron people, Aaron lost. Tom realized the truth slowly, the words sinking into his mind. "You're not just from somewhere far away," he said carefully. "You're from another planet." Aaron's glow intensified slightly and he extended a hand. "Yes, Aaron from far. Aaron Kresh. Aaron saved." Tom looked down at himself, a pang of humility rising in his chest. "You mean, because I helped you, you survived?" Aaron nodded again. "Life debt. Strong. Human save Aaron. Aaron repay." Tom shook his head, laughing softly, though the sound was tinged with disbelief. "I didn't save you because I expected anything in return. I just did what was right." Aaron's eyes glimmered, and he tapped the glowing device, making the stars above them swirl faster. "Right. Aaron owe Tom. Aaron people respect human." Tom had no idea what that meant, but the weight in Aaron's gaze told him it was important. Something in this alien's world was more vast than anything he could imagine. For days, Aaron taught him small things, simple words in his language, simple gestures that carried meaning. But one night something changed. Aaron's voice carried a note of urgency as he tapped the device faster, projecting a holographic map of stars, planets, and glowing routes. "Danger," Aaron said, pointing at the projections. "Ship attack." Aaron survived, but others. Tom leaned closer, trying to understand. The glowing points moved quickly, forming lines and patterns he could not follow. "Others?" he asked. "You mean your people?" Aaron nodded, his hands moving in a fluid motion that made the lights shift. "Others lost. Aaron alone. Aaron life saved by human." Tom's stomach tightened. "They were attacked by who?" Aaron shook his head. "Unknown, dangerous. Aaron cannot fight alone." Tom felt a chill. He had known that Aaron's arrival was strange, but he had not understood the scale of the danger. Someone or something had destroyed the alien ship, and if it had the power to do that, Earth might be at risk too. Aaron touched Tom's arm gently, his glow softening. "Tom's safe. Aaron, trust." Tom nodded, trying to calm his racing thoughts. "We'll figure it out together," he said. That night, Tom slept with one eye open, listening to every sound in the warehouse. The city outside continued its noisy rhythm, oblivious to the secret life within the crumbling walls. Every shadow seemed suspicious, every creak in the floor frightening. But Tom refused to leave Aaron alone. He had promised safety, and he intended to keep it. The next morning, Tom awoke to a faint humming. The sound was low, almost musical, and it came from the device Aaron held. The lights formed a pattern Tom had never seen before, bright pulsing lines that seemed to radiate from a central point. "What is it?" Tom asked. Aaron's voice was quiet but clear. "Call Aaron, people, help come. Aaron repay human." Tom understood immediately. The device was a beacon. It could summon others of Aaron's kind. But Tom felt a twinge of fear. If anyone came, would they be friendly? Would they judge him? Or would they see him as an obstacle to remove? Aaron placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "Tom strong." Tom saved Aaron. Aaron people respect human. Tom swallowed hard. He had lived a life of invisibility, ignored by the city, pushed aside by everyone. And now the alien before him spoke as though Tom's actions mattered more than anything. You think I'm strong?" Tom asked. His voice was almost a whisper. Aaron nodded. "Stronger than many. Or in Tom life, Aaron repay." The words filled Tom with a feeling he had never known. He had wandered the streets, scavenged for food, slept on cold concrete, and been ignored by everyone. And now here was someone from another world, a being of incredible power telling him he was important. Over the next few days, Aaron continued to recover. His movements became faster, his glow brighter, and his voice more confident. He tested small gestures, moving objects with his hands and the energy that flowed through him. Tom watched in awe as broken pieces of wood lifted from the floor and hovered in the air for a few seconds before dropping gently. "You can do that?" Tom asked, his eyes wide. Aaron smiled faintly. "Small practice." Tom shook his head, smiling in disbelief. "I can't even lift that crate." Aaron's eyes glimmered. "Human strong too, different, heart strong, brave." Tom felt a warmth in his chest. Brave. He had never thought of himself that way. He had only tried to survive. But hearing it from Aaron made it feel real. One afternoon, as the sun fell low and painted the city in orange light, Tom noticed movement outside. Shadowy figures lingered near the warehouse. They had been watching for days, curious about the faint lights they sometimes glimpsed. Tom's heart pounded. He knew they would come closer eventually. He looked at Aaron. "We need a plan," he said. "They'll come inside if we're not careful." Aaron touched the device and made the lights glow brighter. "Protect," he said simply. "Tom's safe." "Aaron, protect," Tom nodded. He had seen the alien's abilities growing. He trusted him, but he also knew that strength alone would not keep them safe if the men outside were determined. As night fell, the warehouse became a small world of light and shadow. Aaron practiced with the device, projecting stars and patterns, while Tom kept watch near the doors. Every so often, Aaron would look at him and nod, as if reminding him that he was not alone. During a quiet moment, Aaron spoke slowly. "Tom, Earth different. Aaron learn human, humankind. Brave heart. Strong spirit." Tom's eyes filled with tears. He had spent years feeling invisible, feeling like nothing mattered. And yet this being from another world had seen him, not just as a homeless man, but as someone worthy of respect. "You saved my life," Aaron said. "Now Aaron repay. Honor human." Tom shook his head, smiling through his tears. "I didn't do it for honor. I did it because it was right, but thank you." Aaron's glow pulsed softly, and for the first time Tom felt that he belonged somewhere, even if it was with a creature from the stars. That night, as the city hummed and lights flickered outside, Tom sat beside Aaron and listened to the quiet rhythm of his companion's breathing. Danger waited beyond the walls, and mysteries of space loomed above them. But for the first time, Tom felt hope. He realized that the world was far larger than the streets he had wandered, and that sometimes one small act of kindness could reach farther than he had ever imagined. And he did not yet know the full fortune that lay ahead. The warehouse had grown quiet, but the calm was fragile. Tom had become used to the soft glow of Aaron's skin, the faint hum of the device, and the strange rhythms of this unusual life. Yet he knew that the city outside was not fully oblivious. People were curious, and curiosity often turned into danger. One late afternoon, Tom returned from scavenging food and immediately noticed movement outside. 3 men stood near the edge of the street, leaning against a broken wall and watching the warehouse. Their eyes followed his every step, and Tom's stomach tightened. "They're back," he whispered, more to himself than to Aaron. Aaron had been practicing with the device, creating patterns of stars and flowing symbols in the air. He noticed Tom's concern immediately and stopped, tilting his head. "Danger?" he asked. Tom nodded. People outside. They want to know what's inside. Aaron's glow dimmed slightly as if he understood the seriousness of the situation. He tapped the device and the lights around them pulsed gently. Protect Tom, he said. Tom felt a mixture of relief and unease. He had come to trust Aaron's abilities, but he also knew that the men outside were dangerous because they had numbers. If they tried to enter, it might not be enough to simply defend themselves. That night, Tom lay awake listening. The men had not left, and he could hear distant footsteps and low murmurs. Aaron sat across from him, glowing softly, projecting faint stars above their heads. His presence was comforting, but it also reminded Tom of the fragile barrier between safety and danger. Early the next morning, the men returned, bolder this time. They approached the warehouse with caution but determination, clearly hoping to catch something strange. Tom hurried inside and whispered to Aaron, "They're coming. Be ready." Aaron stood slowly, his glow brightening, casting long shadows against the walls. His hands moved over the device and lights formed protective patterns around the warehouse, creating a barrier that shimmered faintly in the dim light. The men reached the doors and tried to force them open. The rusted metal resisted, but they pushed with brute strength. One of them shouted, frustrated. Suddenly, the barrier pulsed, sending a shock of energy outward. The men staggered, their hands raised instinctively to shield themselves. The glow was not harmful, but it was strong enough to make them hesitate. Tom watched in awe. "You can do that?" he asked. Aaron nodded. "Protect Tom safe. Not hurt." The men cursed and tried again, but the glowing patterns around the warehouse shifted, moving like a living shield. The force of it pushed them back and they stumbled. It was clear they were not prepared for what they faced. One of the men tried to climb through a broken window, but as he reached for the ledge, a light beam formed between Aaron's hands and the device, gently lifting him off balance and forcing him back. The man fell onto the ground with a grunt, terrified and confused. Tom felt a thrill of relief but also worry. "They won't give up," he said. "We need a plan to leave or they'll come back with more." Aaron tapped the device, projecting a map of the city and the streets around them. Lights glowed, showing paths, alleys, and areas of cover. "Leave, safe place," he said. Tom nodded. It would be risky, but he knew they had no choice. Staying would invite more trouble, and he could not let the alien be discovered by anyone else. He packed what few belongings he had, taking care to place Aaron's device in a safe position. By nightfall, they moved cautiously through the streets, Aaron glowing softly to guide them. The city was full of shadows, but they used them to their advantage, slipping through alleys and avoiding the few people who wandered late at night. As they reached the outskirts, Tom asked, "Where are we going?" Aaron pointed to a distant area, far from the main city, filled with abandoned buildings and quiet streets. "Hide, rest, plan." Tom understood. They would have to stay there for a while until the immediate danger passed. He also realized that the men outside were not the only threat. The people who had attacked Aaron's ship might be looking for him as well, and they would not stop easily. When they reached the safe spot, Tom helped Aaron settle down. The alien sat quietly, hands on the device, projecting faint constellations above them. "You saved me," Aaron said softly. "Now Aaron protect you." Tom smiled faintly. "We protect each other," he said. Over the next few days, Tom and Aaron stayed hidden. Aaron trained quietly, practicing small displays of energy, learning to control his glow and preparing in case more danger arrived. Tom watched, fascinated by the alien's abilities, but he also felt a sense of urgency. He knew that the more powerful Aaron became, the more attention he might draw. One afternoon, Aaron looked at Tom with his glowing eyes. "Tom, strong, brave, help Aaron, human good." Tom shook his head. "I'm not special. I just did what I could." Aaron's glow pulsed. "Special. Heart-strong, brave, protect weak. That matter." Tom felt a warmth in his chest. He had spent years feeling invisible, unnoticed and unimportant, and now the words of an alien being, one from another world, told him that he mattered. That night, Tom noticed lights in the sky, strange and distant. They moved differently than airplanes, glowing faintly and shifting direction quickly. His heart pounded. "Aaron, are they coming?" he whispered. Aaron touched the device, making a series of patterns glow above them. "Not here yet. Watch, wait, prepare." The words, though simple, carried weight. Tom realized that the danger was greater than anything he had imagined. The attack on Aaron's ship was not random. It was deliberate. Whoever had done it would stop at nothing to find him. Tom felt fear but also determination. He had survived the streets, he had helped Aaron, and he would do everything in his power to keep them both safe. The following morning they began preparing. Tom gathered materials, barricading the building, reinforcing doors and windows with broken boards and metal scraps. Aaron projected shields from his device, creating layers of protection around them. As they worked, Tom asked, "What will we do if they come? Can you fight them?" Aaron shook his head. "Aaron protect, but many. Danger too strong, need plan. Help Aaron call people." Tom understood. They would need more than strength and courage. They would need allies, help from Aaron's people if they hoped to survive. The bond between them grew stronger during this time. Tom learned to understand Aaron's gestures, his patterns of speech, and even his moments of silence. Aaron learned more English, often repeating words slowly to be understood. Together they became a team, preparing for the threats that loomed ever closer. Days passed and the tension increased. The men who had discovered the warehouse did not return immediately, but Tom could feel their presence in the city. He had learned to read the subtle signs, the flicker of lights, the sound of footsteps in the distance, the occasional shadow at a window. Aaron continued to train quietly, making the device project larger shields and controlling the energy that flowed through him. Tom watched in awe, realizing that this alien was not just a stranger he had saved, but a being of incredible power. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the city glowed in orange and gold, Aaron spoke. "Tom, brave, strong heart, many weak. You protect." Tom smiled faintly. "I only protect what matters. And you matter, Aaron." Aaron's glow brightened. "We protect each other. Strong together." Tom nodded. The words felt right. They had become more than friends, they were allies. Partners in survival against threats both seen and unseen. The night grew darker, and Tom knew that the challenges ahead would test their strength, courage, and trust. But he also knew that together, they could face whatever danger awaited. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the city and the shadows, forces that had destroyed Aaron's ship were watching, waiting, and preparing to strike again. Tom and Aaron were ready. The night sky above the city changed in a way Ravi had never seen before. The stars seemed brighter, and a soft vibration hummed through the air like the deep sound of a storm that had not yet come. Ravi stood beside Terran in the dark railway yard. The broken ship lay behind them, glowing faintly as if it had come alive again. Terran's eyes fixed on the sky, and Ravi followed his gaze. At first, Ravi thought it was only his tired eyes playing tricks. Then he saw it clearly. A massive shape emerged high above, descending slowly, wrapped in lights that moved like flowing rivers. It was not noisy like the airplanes he sometimes watched from the streets. Instead, it was silent and majestic, moving with perfect control. The ground beneath Ravi's feet trembled slightly as the craft drew closer. Ravi's heart raced. He could hardly believe that after all he had seen, more was still to come. This was no dream. Terran's people had arrived. The ship landed without smoke or fire. It simply lowered itself until it rested above the broken tracks. A wide door opened, and a bright path of light stretched down like a bridge. Out of that light walked 3 tall figures. Their shapes were similar to Terran's, but dressed in smooth silver clothing that reflected the surroundings like water. Their steps were calm and strong, and when they reached the ground, their eyes focused on Terran with warmth and relief. Terran stepped forward, his voice full of emotion. He spoke words Ravi could not understand, but the meaning was clear. He was safe now, and his people had come for him. The tallest of the new arrivals placed a hand on Terran's shoulder, then turned toward Ravi. For a moment, Ravi felt nervous. He was only a poor man from the streets wearing worn clothes, his face marked by long days without rest. How could he stand before such beings? Yet, instead of judgment, he saw gratitude in their eyes. Terran spoke again, this time in the human language he had learned. "Ravi," he said softly, "these are my people. They know what you have done for me. Without you, I would not be here today. They wish to thank you." The leader of the group bowed slightly, a respectful gesture that made Ravi step back in surprise. No one in the city ever bowed to him. He was used to being ignored, to being pushed aside. But here, beings from another world lowered themselves in respect before him. "Why me?" Ravi whispered, unable to stop his voice from shaking. "Because you gave when you had nothing," Terran answered. "You showed kindness when there was no reward. That is greater than any treasure. Ravi felt a lump in his throat. For so long he had believed his life had no meaning, that he was forgotten. Now standing in this strange light, he realized he had mattered all along. The aliens motioned toward their ship. Terran placed a hand on Ravi's shoulder and said, "Come with me. You will see wonders you cannot imagine. My people honor those who show courage and compassion. They will give you a new life." Ravi hesitated. His heart wanted to believe, but his mind still carried the weight of his old life. A new life? I do not even know who I am anymore. I am just a man who sleeps on the ground. Terran shook his head. You are more than that. You are proof of why humanity is strong. You are the reason I live. Do not measure yourself by what you lost. Measure yourself by what you gave. Ravi looked at the ship again. The light spilling from its door was warm, not harsh. It felt like an invitation to step out of the shadows of his past. Slowly, with unsure steps, he followed Terran toward the ramp. The closer he came, the more he felt a strange energy pass through him, not painful but uplifting, like his body was being cleansed of years of suffering. When they reached the entrance, the leader spoke in Terran's language and Terran translated. They say you have two choices. You may come with us, travel the stars, and live among us, or if you wish to stay on Earth, they will leave you with wealth and protection beyond anything you have known. The choice is yours. The words sank deep into Ravi's mind. For the first time, someone had placed his future in his hands. No one had ever asked him what he wanted before. Ravi thought carefully. He remembered cold nights, empty days, and the faces of people who walked past him without a glance. He remembered hunger and loneliness, but he also remembered the city lights, the sound of rain on rooftops, and the smell of food from small shops. This was his world, and though it had been hard, it was still his home. I cannot leave Earth, Ravi said slowly. This is where I was born, but I do not need wealth for myself. If you truly wish to reward me, then help those who suffer as I did. There are many who are forgotten. Give them hope. That will be enough. Terran translated his words and silence followed. Then the aliens placed their hands together in a gesture of great respect. One of them touched a small device on their wrist. From the ship, beams of light spread outward, vanishing into the sky. Terran explained. They are sending gifts. Resources, medicine, knowledge. Quietly, without drawing attention, your world will find answers to many problems. This is the way they honor your wish. Ravi felt his knees grow weak. He sat on the ground, overwhelmed. He had asked for nothing, yet something greater than money or gold would now change lives. The leader stepped forward and handed Ravi a small object, a crystal-like stone glowing faintly. Terran spoke. This is for you. It will never run out of energy. With it, you will always have warmth, light, and clean water. You will never be in need again. Ravi held the crystal in his hands. It felt light but powerful, and as he touched it, warmth spread through his fingers. Tears filled his eyes. For years he had been cold and hungry. Now, with this gift, he would never suffer that way again. The aliens began to return to their ship. Terran stayed a little longer. I must go with them, he said gently. But I will not forget you. My people will not forget you. You have changed my life and theirs. Remember this night, Ravi. It is the beginning of something greater. Ravi nodded. Words failed him, but his heart was full. As the ship rose into the sky, its light washed over the broken railway yard one last time. Then it vanished among the stars, leaving only silence behind. Ravi stood alone, holding the crystal, staring at the place where the ship had gone. The city around him was the same, yet he was not. He walked through the streets with a new strength in his step. He was no longer invisible. He carried a secret that no one could take from him, and with it a mission to bring hope to others. In time, people began to notice him. With the help of the crystal, he provided food and warmth to others living on the streets. Small groups gathered around him, curious about how he always had enough. Slowly, respect grew where once there had been only pity. Ravi never spoke of the ship or the visitors from the stars. He kept that memory close, a sacred part of his heart. But when he looked at the night sky, he smiled, knowing he was not alone. He had friends among the stars, and he had found his own fortune, not in riches but in purpose. Humanity had been tested through one forgotten man, and it had shown kindness. That kindness had changed more than one life. It had touched the stars.